Welcome to the deep dive. Okay, I want you to think about a market for a second. It's incredibly specific, but it's also surprisingly massive, and it impacts something really fundamental of your health, even the health of animals.
Hmm.
So let's unpack this. Today we're diving deep into the global gut modifier market.
Right.
Now, what does that actually mean? Well, we're talking about this really fascinating space. It includes everything from, probiotics, prebiotics,
Hmm.
all the way to advanced microbiome therapies.
Hmm.
And it affects both human wellness and animal agriculture.
Exactly. It's a broad field.
And all the insights we're sharing today, they come straight from a detailed market analysis, a projection report by Cognitive Market Research.
Right.
Our mission really is to give you a shortcut to understanding the surprising scale, the incredible growth, and the key drivers behind this really vital part of digestive health.
And the numbers, well, they really do grab your attention right away. They show the sheer speed of this market. Globally, it was valued at, nearly $937 million back in 2021?
Okay, nearly $1 billion to start.
Yeah, but here's where it gets really interesting. It's projected to hit over $1.28 billion by 2025. That's soon. And then by 2033, it's expected to more than double again, to a significant $2.41 billion.
Wow.
That reflects a pretty healthy compound annual growth rate, the CAGR, of 8.2%.
8.2%.
Yeah, it's a clear sign this market is on a steep upward path.
Absolutely. And that global growth, it isn't spread evenly, is it? Where are we seeing the biggest surges? What's driving those regional powerhouses? Let's maybe start with North America.
North America is definitely leading the charge. Its growth is really foundational to the whole picture. I mean, the market there alone is projected to more than double. It's going from about $379 million in 2021 to an expected $913 million by 2033. And if you look closer, the United States it's the undeniable powerhouse within that region, projected to grow from roughly $311 million to over $725 million by 2033.
Huge numbers.
Right. And this dominance, it isn't just about the size.
Yeah.
It really highlights the advanced research going on there, the consumer awareness, and, the strong healthcare infrastructure. They embraced gut health solutions relatively early on.
Right, so it's not just the scale, it's also market maturity, perhaps. What about the rest of North America? Are Canada and Mexico showing similar momentum?
Oh, absolutely they are. Canada is projected to pretty much double its market size, moving from around 38 million to over 92 million by 2033.
Okay.
And Mexico isn't far behind either. It's set to grow from just over 30 million to almost 95 million in that same time frame.
So it really is broad-based then?
It really indicates a broad regional momentum that goes well beyond just the U.S. It shows a real commitment to these health solutions right across North America.
That is impressive momentum. Okay, moving across the Atlantic, how is Europe fitting into this global picture? Are we seeing similar growth drivers there, or is it maybe a different story?
Europe's making a very solid contribution, definitely. The market overall there is set to expand significantly, from roughly $257 million in 2021
Right.
to an estimated $606 million by 2033. What really stands out in Europe, I think, is the consistent growth across lots of different economies. It suggests pretty broad market penetration. Germany, for instance, is projected to more than double, from around 47 million to over 104 million.
Okay.
The UK is also set to basically double, from about 35 million to nearly 74 million. And France shows, the report calls it notable growth, rising from roughly 33 million to over 84 million.
Sounds like it's really a Europe-wide adoption then. Are even the smaller markets chipping in?
Absolutely. Italy's advancing from about 24 million to over 62 million. And countries like Russia and Spain are also posting solid gains, each moving from around 15 million to nearly 28 million and 29.5 million, respectively. Even smaller markets, Sweden, Denmark, Switzerland, Luxembourg, they all show consistent increases. And here's a fascinating detail. The rest of Europe category, it surges dramatically, from 56.5 million in 2021 to over 175 million by 2033. That really signals widespread acceptance and integration of gut modifiers across the continent, not just in the major economies.
And this broad adoption we're seeing in the West, it really sets the stage nicely for Asia-Pacific, doesn't it? A region that's not just expanding rapidly, but maybe even redefining the scale of this market in some ways. What's the story there?
Asia-Pacific it's experiencing really rapid expansion, set to grow from about 201 million in 2021 to a substantial 602 million by 2033.
Big jump.
Huge. And China, predictably, is leading this charge, climbing from roughly 60.5 million to over 175 million, which reflects its vast population and, of course, increasing healthcare awareness.
Sure.
Japan also holds a significant market share. It's rising from about 33.6 million to almost 88 million, likely driven in part by an aging population looking for health solutions.
And what about India, given its massive population and that growing economy?
India shows really impressive momentum. It's soaring from around 28.5 million to over 90 million in that same period.
Wow, over 90 million.
Yeah, highlighting its emerging economic power and, like China, rising health consciousness. South Korea is also projected for strong growth from 22.7 million to over 73 million, and Australia from about 10.7 million to over 21 million. But a really fascinating insight, I thought, comes from Singapore.
Oh,
It's set to more than triple its market, from around 6.5 million to nearly 23 million by 2033.
that's remarkable for a smaller nation.
It really is. It signals a strong embrace of advanced health solutions, even in smaller, highly developed economies. Shows a real global shift in health priorities, I think. And we also see Southeast Asia and the rest of APAC segments experiencing substantial jumps too, reinforcing that widespread adoption across the whole region.
Okay, so shifting gears to South America, we also see clear progress there. The market is moving from roughly 50 million in 2021 to an expected 71.6 million by 2025. And individual countries show solid growth out to 2033. Does this indicate maybe a different stage of market development there? Perhaps less explosive but more consistent growth?
That's a good question. While the overall regional numbers might seem maybe less dramatic than Asia-Pacific,
Yeah.
the individual country contributions are actually very solid. They represent significant progress. Brazil, for instance, is set to nearly triple its contribution, from about 18.6 million to over 55 million.
Okay, triple. That's strong.
It is. Argentina shows strong growth, too, from roughly 6.9 million to over 20 million. Colombia from about 4.2 million to over 13 million. Peru and Chile are also expanding robustly. And similar to what we saw elsewhere, the rest of South America market expands significantly, from around 15.3 million to over 52 million.
Right.
This suggests, growing awareness and investment in gut health solutions as these economies continue to develop.
And as we kind of round out the continents, the Middle East is also showing rising revenue. From about 29 million in 2021, expected to reach over 41 million by 2025, with countries growing significantly through 2033. What makes Saudi Arabia a key market there?
Well, Saudi Arabia emerges as key, partly due to its robust healthcare spending and an increasing focus on preventative health. It's growing from around 9.3 million to over 30 million.
Okay.
But what's fascinating here is how diverse the economies are in the Middle East that are embracing these solutions. Turkey, UAE, Egypt, Qatar, they're all showing strong upward trends. Turkey moves from around 3.3 million to over 9 million. UAE from 3.5 million to over 10 million. Egypt from 2.5 million to nearly 8.8 million. And Qatar from 2 million to over 7.3 million.
So consistent growth across the board there, too.
Exactly. And the rest of the Middle East market also surges from about 8 million to over 24 million by 2033, showing that widespread regional adoption again.
Okay, finally, let's turn our attention to Africa. This market reached about 19.5 million in 2021, expected to hit nearly 29 million by 2025. And again, individual countries showing substantial growth out to 2033. What stands out in Africa's progress?
Africa's market, well, it's currently smaller in overall volume, obviously, but it shows significant untapped potential. Nigeria is on a clear path of progress, moving from about 3.5 million to over 9 million, driven by, a large population and increasing health awareness. South Africa is expanding robustly from about 7 million to over 16 million, representing a more established market on the continent. And once again, that rest of category tells a story. The rest of Africa sees a substantial jump from 13.3 million to over 42 million.
Wow, that's a big leap.
It really emphasizes that the drivers for gut health are resonating globally, even in emerging markets where maybe foundational health infrastructure is still developing.
So just reflecting on all these numbers, all these trends, it's really clear how rapidly this, what seemed like a niche, has evolved into a global force. What are the core drivers making this such a global phenomenon, even in those emerging economies?
Yeah, that's the critical question, right? Because this isn't just random growth. It's driven by clear, identifiable factors that seem to apply across all these diverse regions.
Right.
First, and this is a big one, there's a heightened and growing awareness of gut health among consumers.
Right.
People are increasingly understanding its profound connection to overall well-being.
Yeah.
From digestion and immunity to even mental health.
It feels like you hear about it everywhere now.
Exactly. It's not just a trend anymore. It's becoming a fundamental shift in how people view holistic health.
And it's not just about human health, is it? We mentioned animal applications right at the start.
Precisely. The second major driver is the increasing demand for gut modifiers in animal feed applications. In agriculture, there's a strong economic incentive to improve animal health, growth rates, feed conversion efficiency. So using gut modifiers like probiotics in, say, poultry, swine, or even aquaculture can potentially reduce the need for antibiotics, improve how animals absorb nutrients, and ultimately it leads to healthier animals and hopefully more sustainable food production. This is a massive segment driving a lot of the market expansion.
And the third driver you mentioned, innovation. That seems like it's constantly evolving, especially with all the microbiome research happening.
Exactly right. The third key factor is ongoing innovations in microbiome-based therapeutics and diagnostics. We're moving beyond just, traditional probiotics into highly specialized targeted interventions based on a much deeper understanding of the gut microbiome's incredibly complex ecosystem.
So much more tailored solutions.
Yeah, things like personalized nutrition approaches, novel drug delivery systems, even things like fecal microbiota transplantation or FMT for specific conditions. These scientific advancements are constantly opening up new avenues and applications for gut modifiers, and that ensures the market's continued expansion. If you connect these three drivers, consumer awareness, animal health demand, and innovation, they are clearly fueling that robust growth we're seeing across every single region we talked about.
Yeah.
The industry really does seem poised for a transformative decade.
And what a journey it's been today. From this seemingly specific niche to a critical, multi-billion-dollar global industry, understanding this market really gives you, the listener, a unique insight into a vital aspect of health and industry worldwide.
It really does. It just shows how deeply interconnected our health is and even the health of our food supply with this microscopic world inside us and how that understanding is shaping major economic shifts globally.
It definitely makes me wonder, considering these rapid advancements, especially in microbiome research and personalized nutrition, what new, maybe even unexpected categories of gut modifiers might emerge in the coming years, and how could they fundamentally reshape not just health as we know it, but maybe areas like food production or perhaps even environmental sustainability? Something to think about until our next deep dive. Welcome back to the deep dive. Okay, so if you've been keeping an eye on health and wellness at all, gut health has just, exploded.
It really has.
And today we're doing a full deep dive into something that's not just fascinating, but really impacts almost everything from what we eat to how we feel. We're talking about the global gut modifier market. This is a space where, honestly, you see cutting-edge science, consumer trends, big industry shifts, all sort of converging incredibly fast.
That's exactly right. What we're seeing here, it's really an era of pretty unprecedented innovation and demand.
And why now? What's driving that?
Well, the big reason is the links between our gut health, our immune system, and just our overall well-being are becoming clearer, like almost daily. It's undeniable now.
Right.
It's not some niche academic thing anymore. It's front and center, in global health talks driving actual change.
Okay, so our mission for you today is to pull out the most important, the most actionable insights from our source material. That's the Global Gut Modifier Market Dynamics and Trends Report, using info from Cognitive Market Research.
Yeah, it's a great source.
We're going to unpack the key drivers, what's pushing this growth, also the big challenges companies face, and then some really exciting future trends.
Definitely.
The goal is simple. Leave you with a solid but totally digestible understanding. So you're basically up to speed instantly. Let's dig in.
Let's do it.
So, okay, if we have to point to what's really lighting the fire under this market, what's the biggest push right now?
Well, one of the most significant catalysts, maybe surprisingly, it actually comes from animal agriculture.
Really? Animal?
Yeah, the global phase out of antibiotic growth promoters, AGPs, in animal feed. There's this huge regulatory clampdown worldwide on using antibiotics in livestock. And it's mostly driven by those growing fears around antimicrobial resistance.
Which is a massive public health issue, of course.
Exactly. A huge concern. Look at the European Union, for instance. They put a total ban on AGPs years back.
Right, I remember that.
And that move, it didn't just spark demand for alternatives. It basically created a blueprint showing how fast a huge industry can pivot when regulations hit.
Sure.
It showed that things like probiotics, prebiotics, acidifiers, these gut modifiers, they aren't just niche anymore. They're They're becoming mainstream necessities, even for livestock.
So that creates a kind of parallel for human use, too.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And it really kicked off the search for safer, effective options.
That's a huge regulatory shift. I mean, thinking beyond just the food on our plates, what does that mean for, say, farmers or feed companies? Are they struggling to find alternatives that work just as well and don't break the bank?
Oh, it's definitely a complex balancing act,
Yeah.
yes. The cost of some alternatives can be higher initially.
Mm-hmm.
And proving they work at scale, for large herds or flocks, that takes real time and investment. But I think the industry, by and large, has accepted this is the new normal.
So it forces innovation.
It forces innovation, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it creates completely new market segments for companies that specialize in these gut health solutions for animals.
That makes total sense. Okay, so animal agriculture is a big piece, but let's be honest, the real buzz, where most of us feel these trends, is on the human health side.
Right.
What's driving that incredible surge in consumer awareness, that link between gut health and feeling well overall?
It's a pretty profound shift, actually. Data shows more than half, I think, of global consumers are now actively involved in managing their own health.
Wow, more than half.
Yeah. And it's not just general interest. It's moving away from, reactive sick care towards proactive well-being management.
Okay.
People feel more empowered. They expect health solutions kind of integrated into their daily lives. And they're increasingly getting that the gut is fundamental. Immunity, mental clarity, metabolism, it's all connected.
Yeah, you hear about that constantly now.
And that awareness,
Yeah.
it's directly fueling the demand for things like probiotic-rich functional foods. You see kombucha everywhere, different yogurts.
Oh, yeah. Kombucha's huge.
And it's also behind the boom in nutritional supplements, specifically targeting gut health. The supplement aisle is packed.
It really is. It makes you wonder, you listening now, how many of you have probiotics in the fridge?
Yeah.
Or grabbed a kombucha recently, and it feels like a fundamental change, not just a trend.
It does.
And connecting directly to that, we're also seeing this global rise in digestive problems and lifestyle diseases. That seems like it would push people towards these solutions too.
That's a really critical point. The incidence globally of things like irritable bowel syndrome, IBS, or various metabolic syndromes, it's definitely rising.
Sadly, yes.
And as the science gets stronger, showing that clear link between gut dysbiosis, that's an imbalance in your gut bacteria,
You're right, dysbiosis.
and these kinds of disorders, people are naturally looking towards gut-based solutions. They want alternatives.
So they're actively seeking out products.
Exactly. There's strong consumer interest in gut modifiers that promise better digestion, regularity, even metabolic health benefits. They're looking beyond just conventional medicine for answers.
Okay, so that's the powerful wave pushing this market forward. But, no rapidly growing market is without its bumps in the road, significant hurdles.
Oh, true.
What are the key restraints the headwinds companies are dealing with?
Well, one of the absolute biggest is the complexity and, frankly, the inconsistency in how health claims are regulated.
The red tape.
Pretty much. Demand for the products might be sky high, but if the rules aren't uniform globally, it makes it incredibly difficult for companies to market these things effectively or consistently across different countries.
I can imagine.
Take the European Food Safety Authority, EFSA. They're known for being notoriously strict. They've rejected the vast majority of health claims submitted for probiotics and similar products.
Wow, the vast majority.
Yes, and that's not just a marketing headache. It fundamentally limits how a brand can even talk about potential benefits to you, the consumer.
Right, which makes it harder to build trust.
Exactly. And it drives up marketing costs significantly in those stricter regions.
That sounds like a real minefield for companies trying to innovate. And yeah, it makes it tough for us as consumers too to know what's what really works.
It impacts trust and accessibility, definitely.
So beyond the regulatory maze, what about the science itself? Are there inherent complexities in gut science that slow things down?
Oh, absolutely. A big one is the strain-specific nature of scientific validation.
Strain-specific, meaning?
It means gut modifiers are often incredibly specific. Their effects depend heavily on the exact microbial strain being used, and even on the individual person, the host.
Ah, okay.
So the effectiveness of a specific probiotic, for example, can vary a lot, depending on the strain and depending on you.
So what works wonders for one person might not do much for another.
That can happen, yes. And the challenge then becomes proving the benefits definitively. You need these large-scale, placebo-controlled clinical trials.
The gold standard.
Right. But they are incredibly expensive and very time-consuming.
I bet.
And without that really robust data for every single strain, every application,
Yeah.
well, consumers and even vets on the animal side, they might remain skeptical,
Understandably.
which naturally slows down wider adoption. It's just a very high bar for scientific proof.
Makes sense. So regulatory hurdles, scientific complexity.
Yeah.
What else?
Well, then you get into the technical challenges,
Yeah.
particularly around shelf life and product stability.
Keeping the good bugs alive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Especially for live probiotics.
Yeah.
These beneficial microbes, they're actually incredibly sensitive
To what?
to things like heat, humidity, even the acid in our own stomachs. This sensitivity can really weaken their potency during manufacturing, during storage, even just sitting on the shelf or in your fridge.
So you might buy something, but the beneficial part isn't really potent anymore.
That's the risk, yes. And the consequence for manufacturers is higher production costs.
Because they need special techniques.
Right. They need to invest in advanced solutions, things like microencapsulation.
You mentioned that earlier, like a protective shield.
Basically, yes. It shields the microbes, and they also need robust cold chain logistics, keeping things cold from the factory all the way to the store fridge.
Wow, that sounds complicated and expensive.
It adds layers of complexity and cost, definitely.
Yeah.
It's not just about finding the right bacteria, it's making sure they survive to actually do their job when you take them.
Okay, it's clear the hurdles are pretty significant. But, innovation rarely just stops.
Never does.
So let's pivot. Let's look towards the horizon. What are the exciting breakthroughs, the really groundbreaking trends shaping the future of gut health? This is where it gets really interesting, right?
Absolutely. This is the exciting part. And I think one of the most notable trends is the rise of what people are calling new biotics.
New biotics.
Yeah, specifically things like postbiotics and synbiotics.
Okay, I need definitions here. Postbiotics.
So postbiotics are essentially the metabolites, the compounds, produced by probiotic bacteria. Think of them as the beneficial stuff the good bacteria make.
Okay. Like they're byproducts, but good ones.
Exactly. And they offer many of the same health benefits as the live probiotics, but, and this is key, they don't have the same stability issues because they aren't living organisms.
Oh, that solves the shelf life problem.
It helps tremendously, yes. Then you have symbiotics.
Symbiotics, got it.
These cleverly combined prebiotics, which are basically food for beneficial bacteria.
Right, the fiber.
And probiotics, the beneficial bacteria themselves, together in one product.
A 2-in-1.
Precisely. And they're formulated specifically to improve the overall effectiveness and ensure the good bacteria survive better once they reach your gut. It creates this synergistic effect.
That sounds like a really smart evolution. More effective, easier to handle. Makes sense.
Have a big leap.
And speaking of leaps, this idea of personalized gut health. Based on analyzing my own unique microbiome, that sounds almost like science fiction.
It really felt like it just a few years ago, but it's becoming very real very quickly.
How does that work?
Well, this is a truly groundbreaking trend. Microbiome analysis driving personalized nutrition. You can now get these at-home testing kits.
I've seen ads for those.
Right. You send in a sample, and they assess the specific composition of your gut bacteria, your unique gut flora.
Okay, and then?
And then based on those results, companies can offer customized gut health solutions, supplements, dietary advice, truly tailored to your specific microbial imbalances.
Wow.
It's this amazing intersection of diagnostics, like the testing and therapeutics, the solutions.
As the ultimate aha moment for personalized health, isn't it? Understanding your unique biology to get targeted support.
Exactly. It's moving beyond guesswork.
Incredible. Okay, what else is on the horizon?
Or another really significant trend is the expansion of health endpoints. What gut modifiers are actually targeting.
Meaning they're not just for digestion anymore.
Exactly. They're no longer confined just to digestive health, which is the traditional focus.
Yeah.
Now we're seeing formulations targeting the gut-brain axis.
The gut-brain connection, right? Mood, anxiety.
Precisely. Addressing things like mood regulation, anxiety, and even the gut-skin axis.
Gut-skin, like for eczema or acne.
Potentially, yes. Conditions like eczema, general skin health, even broader immune support are being linked back to gut balance.
That is fascinating.
And the key here is that clinical research is now getting really specific, targeting specific strains of bacteria for these very targeted outcomes. Brain health, skin health, immune function.
So the science is becoming much more precise.
Much more precise.
Yeah.
Which significantly boosts the credibility and the overall appeal of the whole category. It's moving far beyond just helping with bloating.
It really feels like the science is finally catching up to what maybe people intuitively felt for years, that your gut is connected to, well, almost everything.
And that's a great way to put it.
So, summing all this up, it really sounds like the global gut modifier market is entering a truly transformative era.
Absolutely. It's being fueled by this powerful mix,
Mm.
those regulatory shifts in animal feed forcing change,
Right.
the huge shift in consumer lifestyle and health awareness,
The proactive wellness trend.
backed by increasingly robust scientific validation and driven by these really exciting technological advances, making solutions more effective, more stable, and much more personalized.
It's a convergence of factors.
Mm.
And okay, here's maybe a final thought for you, our listener, to mull over.
Mm.
Whether it's about improving the health of livestock that eventually ends up on our plates, or it's providing really targeted support sitting in your own supplement cabinet, gut health is now undeniably center stage.
Couldn't agree more.
It's not some niche concern anymore. It's really becoming a cornerstone of how we think about holistic health and well-being.
Well said.
We really hope this deep dive gave you a comprehensive but clear understanding of this vital and, let's face it, rapidly evolving market. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and as always, keep being well informed.